Hello, this is Michael Kraft, and the name of this video is The Study Process Approach to Study Biblical Chronology. And I'm basically going to tell you everything I did and how I study biblical chronology, because it's not just as simple as studying words and numbers in a book to write out a timeline, because a timeline that is over thousands of years old, you have to be able to see the forward dates and the backward dates and things like that. So before I get into that, I'm going to read a scripture and then I'm going to bring it all together. But Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hands until a time and a times and dividing of times. That's basically 3.5 years. Now, I don't really understand about the time of 3.5 years there, but I do understand about changing times and laws. Basically, we do not go by the Hebrew calendar. We go by the Gregorian calendar, which was first the Caesarian calendar, but it was brought back by Pope Gregory. So basically, what I want to get into is this right here. This is my composition book. I wrote an AM/BC chronology timeline book. I wrote 4 of these books. It's basically, this is the cover. You can read everything on it. And this right here on the inside basically starts on the BC side as 4140 BC, because as I told in another video, it was not the 4,000 years or 4,004 years that they said it was. It was actually more years than that. Because when you're dealing with the New Testament, you're only dealing with 70 years. And I had always wondered the chronology of that, but it's basically 70 years, because the book of Revelation is 95 AD. But all the other books, from the 4 Gospels to Acts and the epistles of Paul, are supposed to be up to the destruction of the temple, and we know that happened at 70 AD, right? Well, it may not have. Also, the 4140 date, I actually found to be false as well, because, well, when you take 4140 plus 65, which was the years of Canaan 2 that I restored. I shouldn't say added, I should say restored. It comes to 4205. But wait, there's more. The years might actually come out to be 4220. And when you go from that, on the current timeline, people say it's over 6,000 years. Well, actually, it's more than 6,000 years. It'd be 6,235 years. This would actually be the 6,235th year, being 2015. So basically, how that looks is, on one side AM dating goes forward, and on the other BC dating goes backwards. It would look like this. This is exactly what it would look like. And actually, I did 3 sets of these books previous to settling on these books, because after a while I was like, wait a minute, I can just write down the date and I can subtract, which chronology is just addition, subtraction, maybe multiplication, maybe division. But whenever you get your timeline built out, you find out that going from 1 BC to 1 AD, there is an error of 2 years. Because there's 2 years where you don't continue to go backwards. You actually go backwards to 1, then you start from 1 to get the current timeline of 2015. So basically, there is no 0. Okay, so I have 4 sets of these books. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Now, when I got that, I started doing another composition book, and I went ahead and called that the Bible Chronology and Genealogy with History from the Apocrypha. Book of Jasher and Book of Jubilees are apocryphal books, so I wanted to take the timeline that was in the Bible in chapter 5 and then look into the other books and see what were some of the things that they recorded that happened. Okay, so I did that, and this book 1 right here has the introduction, and then I do chapter 1, which is chapter 1, Genesis 5, the pattern of chronology. I'm basically breaking that down and showing you. This is what would be on the Bible as a history book web page if I could get it funded, or I could get a job to take care of the funding for that. Now, I don't know exactly how many chapters this one book holds, because I didn't put it on the front of the book. I should have. Darn it. Can't be that long. I'm up to page 37. Yes, it is that long. Because I'm covering the 1,656 years up to the flood. So it had that much information. So now I'm trying to show how many chapters. Okay, no. So yeah, 53 pages in this book, and this is a 100-page book. Chapter 2 contains Genesis 11, 10 through 26, the post-flood world, and the early years of Abraham up to 2000 AM, 2140 BC. Now, I've already said the BC dates, they're off, and the first 10 chapters of the website, I might as well tell you, they're off too, because I did not have. I kind of figured out things later with Canaan's date that was missing, and I restored it. Basically, the first 10 chapters show the Masonic timeline and what they want you to believe. Okay, up to the book of Joshua. Now, I do a review on chapter 11, which will become 12 later, because of another web page I'm going to redo and renumber it. But this right here, yeah, it's just I wanted you to see what they want you to believe, and then chapter 11 is going to be the redoing, and then I'm going to start with the book of Judges. Okay, so that was chapter 2. Okay. Okay, I might have actually, this is where we get into book 2. Okay, book 2 here. And so in the early first 10 chapters, I use the 148 date for Abraham's birth, which is wrong. So okay, I'm trying to find chapter 3. Okay, chapter 3 is the history of migrations of Abram and the birth of Isaac. So I cover all that information. There's actually information in the book of Jasher. Because like after a certain point, I don't even use Jubilees, because when you try to use Jubilees all the way out, there are conflicting stories about when Abraham was born or how he was born and things like that. And I favor the book of Jasher's history over the book of Jubilees history, even though there are some parts in the book of Jubilees that are in continuity. It's just the way some people wrote their history. It was really weird. I guess it was to show, like, can you discern what is the truth? So that's chapter 3. And then in this book 2, I'm going to see when we get to chapter 4. Okay, I keep passing it. I don't know how. Okay, chapter 4 is the life of Isaac, the promised son, as influenced by Abraham. So then now we're going to go see what chapter 5 is, because I've already got all this written. I've got web pages just waiting to be published, but I can't get it funded. Okay, now there's chapter 5, the life and struggle of Jacob against Esau, the new beginning of the old enmity. And this really gets into how much Esau hated Jacob. And it really breaks it down. Searching for chapter 6. Okay, now, chapter 6 is Jacob in the land of Padam Aram, 20 years of servitude to Uncle Laban. So we can see that some themes that are covered in the Bible are also covered in the book of Jasher. and I always make notation of that. And when you, if you read this site, if it ever gets funded, you will need your Bible. Okay, now, chapter 7, the life of Joseph in Egypt after being sold by his brothers, and there's a longer version in the book of Jasher that is not covered in any other book. And I, of course, start when he's 17 years old. Okay, now, chapter 8, from the death and burial of Jacob to the death and burial of the 12 patriarchs of Israel. So this covers, as I believe I went over in the very first video I ever made, about the 126 years that are missing from our Bibles about this period. And so I get into book 3 now. It turns out there's a lot of history, a lot of detail that they left out about Edom as well. But I cover it. And like I said, you will need your Bible to see what's not there and what is there. Alright, now, chapter 9, the life of Moses and the 80 years of slavery till Haya sent Moses to free the children of Israel in Egypt. From Egypt. Yeah, these chapters are long too. Okay, and the last chapter, as I said, was chapter 10, from the Exodus to the wilderness from the Exodus to the wilderness to the death of Joshua the son of Nun. And I just wanted to read something right quick. This is the verse of the Septuagint in 1240. And the sojourning of the children of Israel while they were sojourned in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan was 430 years. So basically, like I said before, 220 years in Canaan, 210 years in Egypt. So I'm going to see I'm going to see if there's any more chapters of that, because where I started chapter 11, actually chapter 11 is a redoing of all these books with a slightly different timeline. Okay, no. It has no more chapters. So that's three books of that. Excuse me. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is when I wanted to get into the Jubilee year. I had a little paper where it had all the Jubilees on it. And when I decided, well, let me get a composition book, and so I could show myself all the Jubilee years that there ever were. And that took 3 books to do. Well, actually, it took 1 book to do. And, yeah. But, basically, when we look at Jubilee years, you count by 7. And the interesting thing is that it's broken down into weeks, which means that the first Jubilee over here, well, no, over here, starts with 7, then 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, and then 49. And so you can see it looks like there's only 49 years. Well, actually, over here at the beginning of this week, on the 50th year, which would be the first day of the new Jubilee, the way it's set up, you have the Jubilee. But if you count by 7s, it'll go like 49, 98, 147, 196, and on, because you're counting by 49s. So in this book, up to a certain point, every Jubilee was accounted for. I didn't have to make any extra notes or anything like that. But then there was something that was really weird when you did it by a calculator and you tried to find out the Jubilee. Well, it ended up being astronomical, and I don't understand that. So, well, actually, I should say I shouldn't say find the Jubilee, because the Jubilee is 50th year. But when I did it by 49s, it ended up being astronomical. So I'm just going to find that page. Okay, now on page 39, we arrive at the Jubilee, the 80th Jubilee, and it's 3927. And I write in the note, so far this Jubilee shows 49.0875. I don't know why, so I won't speculate. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Unless that's something to do with the moon. Because the Sabbaths were all supposed to be taken every 50 years. So I think after the sun stayed still for a whole day over Gibeon, like Joshua asked the Lord to do, it threw the time off. But it was not, I'm not sure what year it was. Not yet. So I am not going to say, but I doubt it was 3927. So that's that book on Jubilees and counting by Jubilees. Okay. The other stuff is just stuff that I was studying. But that's all the process that I had to do to figure out biblical chronology and the years and what you have to do to study it. So and also I saw some videos by TorahTimes.com or .net or something like that. I don't know, but they had a pretty good chronology, although I don't believe it was totally correct because the year was too low for 4140, and I got that from them. So anyway, if you would like to in the future fund my site so that you may see it, you can study it, and gain wisdom and knowledge from it, things like that, please fund me at GoFundMe.com. I'm going to leave a link for that if I haven't already. So I want to say thank you for watching. Be in good health. Praise Haya. Shalom.